this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to proceed on our Ireland journey into what they call the long room. The long room is where the huge and renowned library at Trinity College is located. And if you have never been there, and I'm assuming most of you have not, it is the most amazing library I have ever seen in my life. There is a really good reason why it is so well known and so renowned, and if you've ever seen photos, they really don't do it justice. They are actually in the middle of doing some cleanup and restoration work in that library right now, and by now they may have completed it. I'm not sure, since this trip was September of last year. I don't know how fast they were working, but they looked like they were fairly close to being done, so they could be done by now. I don't know, but I'll explain more about that as we look at those photos. Let's check out my workspace and we'll get started. This video is this layout is going to be a unique one, and it is of my own design, so hopefully it will turn out. I'm excited to see how it works, and so let's check it out. All right, so here is my workspace for today. I have an assortment of kind of what's left from the layouts that I did for Kells, the Book of Kells, because this is kind of connected to that. You go and when you visit Trinity College, you go in and you see the museum portion, and then you see the Book of Kells, and then it leads you right into the long room. The long room is this beautiful library that I've already spoken to you about, and so I kind of want to keep sort of the same tones involved in this layout, so I just figured I would use up the rest of the paper that I have left, right? And I'm going to try something new today. I've done it before, but it's been a long time, and so I got some new things to try, and I'm excited to play with them today with you. So I bought these archival ink, I guess they would be called an ink pad, Kim. Okay. I got these archival ink pads. These are mini ink pads. As you can see, they're really small, and they're not like super small. They're not like some of the squares I've seen. But they are still fairly small. They can be re-inked, and they are made by a company called Ranger, who makes archival inks. They are acid-free, they're permanent, and they're waterproof. And their information on the product says that they will not interfere with photographs. They will not cause them harm in any way. So I'm excited to try these. They come in a variety of colors. This is just the tip of the iceberg that I have out here, because these are colors that I thought would probably match best with what we're doing, and so I just pulled these out just so I have them handy. I have my all-purpose tool, I have a dual tipped Creative Memories journal pen, and my permanent and repositionable adhesive. As far as papers go, I have what's left of the crafter pack, the crafter paper pack that we've been using, and I have a piece of gold shimmer that we're going to cut into thinner strips, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that in just a little bit. I also have a sheet of another paper which I believe came from the Our Moments collection, but I may be wrong about that. It has these black, very fine lined flowers on it and kind of a lavender backside. So we're going to use that in addition. Plus I have this cardstock, which is actually an 8.5 and 11 piece of acid-free, lignin-free paper. This is not a CM color, and so I got this actually out of a big pack of very variegated colored papers at my favorite craft store. And because it was not a 12-inch piece, you can just barely see the line down here where I added an inch at the bottom to make it 12 inches high, and then I trimmed it to make it 6 inches wide. And when I flip it over, that seam is in a different place because I covered my welding material with the same paper so that both sides would be a solid color. And you can kind of see it because it's not a solid core cardstock, so you can see that white line right there on the edge of the paper, but that is what it is, right? Okay, and that's because we're going to be using a peekaboo pocket, so that's what that piece is for, and I went ahead and prepped it ahead of time so that it would be good to go. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to kind of show you what I've got here and move my papers. I laid out my photos ahead of time because I wanted to just check and see how I might put this together for you, and coming up with a way to design the complementing papers for this particular layout was a little bit difficult, even though it's a fairly simple layout. And the reason was because I have a lot of photos I'm working into this layout. So we've got this page, which is the initial walking in to the space. You approach this doorway, and there is a placard outside that talks about the old library redevelopment project, which is what they were currently working on while we were there. And I am not sure, I didn't look to see online to see whether they are still working on this project or not. If you know and would like to comment and let us know, that would be awesome. The project that I'm referring to is a project they've been working on for a while now, where they are going through and removing all of the books from the shelves and meticulously cleaning them. As you can see, I don't know if you can see this in this photo very well. Let me refocus it. But you can see those shelves behind my mom and my cousin are empty. And I would say at least 3/4 of the library was already empty when we were there, which is an incredible feat when you consider that this library is 2-story. There is this main hall that goes down the center, and then both sides are 2 stories worth of books that date back just, I don't even know, I can't even tell you exactly how far they go, but they do date back a considerable length of time. And most of the books look just like this. Now, this is my oldest daughter, and she looks a little bewildered because it really was amazing, all of the books that were in this library. There's 2 aisles that still have the books available. So definitely a lot of books, and it took a lot of time. And so at any rate, there's another excellent picture of the ceiling because it's so, I mean, you just stand there in awe. Look at everyone just looking up, and and yeah, it takes you a minute. Okay, so anyway, I have a lot of photos on these pages, so whatever we put in the background is not going to be easily seen unless we put it on the edges of the pages. And so, you know, that is a possibility. We could move these pages in just a little bit. I don't want to lose the variation in the different photos too much, but if we move these photos in just a little, then we can still kind of keep that variation, and maybe I'll move what I'm going to do as on the base more out on the edges again, so that it is just a little bit better, more seen. This is my husband and I at the very entrance to the library. They have this spiral staircase that that could take you up to the second floor. Of course, general public is not allowed up there. And then I had these pictures blown up to be able to see a little bit better. And you can see it's just the first 2 rows really of books that are still there, and then the rest of the library is actually empty on the top floor. On the top floor, it's the entire top floor is empty, and then just these 2 rows on the bottom that actually still had the books there. They are digitally cataloging all of those books to make them available for the rest of the world to be able to access. So a very, very cool thing indeed. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make some books to go on the outside of this layout so that we can get the sense that this is a library. I just thought that would made so much sense to go ahead and do that for our borders, and it should be fairly easy, and I have plenty of paper, so it just sounded like it made sense. So I'm going to just move these papers over, or the pages over there. We're going to bring my trimmer in. And the first thing I'm going to do is use this paper. This paper's 5 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, it's just over 5 inches wide, just barely. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces that are 1.5 inches wide. So I'm just going to cut right down that line right there. Well, I'm just going to cut down the middle of this, the pattern that we've got. Okay, so there's 2. I'm just going to leave this one on this side. And then we've got left, we've got 2 1/8 inches. So we're going to just center that and make it 1 1/16 on either side, and cut right down the middle. And that's so that we can flip it over and use the back side. Okay, so we've got those 2. Then we're going to use this paper right here, which is very artsy. And this one we're going to cut at 1 1/4. These books, as you may notice, are not going to be very wide. They're not going to be large volumes by any means, but that's okay. We don't need them to be large volumes. We just need enough that we can make a border. Okay, I have this piece, but it's not really enough to do 2 of, and I feel like I need to do 2, 1 for either side. So we're going to skip to this piece and do, let's just do a 1 inch. 1 inch. We've got 1 1/4, another 1 1/2, so that's 2 3/4, 3 3/4. This would be 4 3/4 wide if we do another 1 inch. Let's do that. We'll do another 1 inch of this one for either side. And then maybe what we'll do is just cut this one in half and make it just a super skinny book, because I don't really want to do polka dots. I think the lines would look much better. So I'm just going to do my best to center this on my cutting line, which, as you know, is sometimes easier said than done. There we go. Let's try that. Okay. And then we've got a very thin book for either side. Okay. So now I'm going to take this gold and I'm going to put a little bit of repositionable adhesive on the back because I just feel like it's going to be squirrely. I'm going to take this and lay it down about 1/8 of an inch. That's what we're looking for. Again, this is not an exact thing, so if your paper is narrower or wider, that's okay. I'm just going to sort of stick that down with my adhesive so that I can cut that very narrow piece and hopefully keep my paper from moving too much. Although it did move, did you see that? Because I didn't glue it down all the way down. So I'll have to use the wide parts and not that middle part. Okay, I'm going to turn this around and add a little bit of adhesive to that middle part so it doesn't get squirrely. Alright, we'll turn it around and use the straight side. The straight edge of that paper. There we go. Okay, so again, I'm going to start up here at the top. I find that if I go slower, when I am worried about my paper possibly moving, that typically it's more apt to stay where I want it to be if I go slower. Alright, and then let's move this over and try and cut off just that little bitty edge. Can't hurt to try, right? See if we can make it happen. If we can't, then c'est la vie, as my mom is fond of saying. Actually, my mom is fond of saying c'est la guerre, and she thought, I'm not sure what she thought that meant, but when I was in high school, I took a French class and learned that la guerre means the train station. And I came home and said, Mom, did you know that every time you say that, you're saying that's the train station? It's very funny. She had no idea. So anyway, we get a good laugh out of that every now and then. It's really funny. Okay, so we've got these pieces, we've got this one, which is for our peekaboo pocket. I've got this extra piece with lines, which I may or may not use, and we've got these 3 pieces of gold down to this one. This one I pulled so that we could do some mats with it, but now I'm not sure that we're going to use it. We're going to wait and see because it doesn't accurately match the other papers I'm using on the paper, on the pages, but the color does match some of the photos. So I'm going to have to kind of make a judgment call when we get that far and see if we're going to use that or not. So I'm just going to set that aside for the time being. Now, as we determine which of these is going to be our long books and our short books, because you know books are never the same size, I'm going to just sort of put them in an order. And it doesn't really matter what order, but they just need to be in some type of an order. My plan was not to put them 2 sizes of books right next to each other. So in other words, these 2 are 1 inch and I have them separated. This one is 1 1/4, this one is 1 1/2. So they are separated, and this narrow one is just kind of right in the middle because it complements and sort of pulls all the colors together, right? Okay, so I'm going to go in here and just sort of arbitrarily decide I'm going to make the outside one just a little bit shorter. We're going to go with a one inch shorter. And then this one right here, we're going to go with a 1/2 inch shorter. And then this black one here we'll go with back to a 1 inch shorter. Let's see how that looks. So we started off with them all 12-inch strips, and as we know, not all books are the same size, so I think we actually could go with a little shorter on the black, but yeah, I'm also trying to remember that a lot of this is going to be covered up by my photos, so I'm not really going to stress about this too much. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to wait on the gold until I have these affixed to my page, and then I'm going to add the gold, so you'll want to watch that here in just a second. But I'm going to go ahead and cut. I'm going to make the other side's border mirror this one. That way we'll get more of a chance of seeing all the different papers represented. Okay, so we're going to come in here. I'm going to shift these papers over. I'm not going to stack them because I want to be able to figure out and discern where I meant for things to go. So I'm just going to add these together right along the edge, right along the outside jeeping. It's possible that oh, you know what? I said we were going to play with ink and I didn't do it. My bad. Okay, so let's play with some ink. So just to darken this up a little bit, this is the sepia, and I'm just going to take this and just barely ink the edges. I'm not using a brush or anything, I'm just using the pad and sort of swiping it, and that's working because these are brand new, so I'm not sure it would work as well to do it this way if these weren't brand new stamps. It might be just fine, I don't know, I'm just not that experienced with mixed media to be able to tell you. If you are out there and you're watching this and you are experienced with these kinds of things, would you just let us know in the comments if we'll need to use a brush in the future when this stamp is not brand new, because honestly I don't know. Okay, this one is library green, and I hate to leave these out, but since this one is already down, I am just going to do it really quick. On the shorter ones, make sure you get the end that shows. Okay, And what color to use on this one? I am not, like I said, I'm not super experienced. So I think I'm going to just go with this kind of brownish. This is coffee. And I think I'm going to go with coffee to go around this, even though there's black. Another concern I would have with doing this is I'm worried that it's going to flick ink onto my photos. But when I was testing this last night, it didn't flick any ink onto the tissue I had underneath me last night as I was practicing this. So I think we're okay there. In case you're cringing at what I'm doing. I also think that by adding that little edge on to the book, or to what we want to look like a book, that it just gives it so much more definition. It sort of defines those edges really nicely. Okay, this is plum, and I'm going to use plum on this page, even though this is kind of a brownish page. You might think maybe sepia, and you might be right, but I'm wanting something that's going to show up, not something that's going to disappear completely. So that's why I chose plum. I think plum is close, but it's still one that we'll be able to see. And since we're not really flicking this ink, we're just barely doing edges. I'm sorry I keep going out of frame. My arms get tired, to be honest. Okay, so there's plum. Let's see how it blends. I think it blends pretty well in with paper. It doesn't look unusual, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Alright, and then we've got black, and I'm not really sure how to do black, but I am going to just use the jet black, and hopefully it will just sort of fill in any white spots so there's a more defined edge, almost a shadow. You can see that white edge on the paper, which we don't want to see. Alright, so that one is done. I'm going to do this other one in a jiffy. You're not even going to see it. I'm just going to go, ta-da! And look, I don't even have ink all over my hands. I like this. Okay, so let's bring back in the other page. We've got this page. We've got this page. We need to do this peekaboo pocket, which shouldn't be too hard. And I have another peekaboo pocket that I'm also using. So we'll get to that when we assemble this right-hand page. Okay, so I'm just gonna again move that out of the way and jump back over here to this page. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is grab a piece of this pretty gold shimmer. I'm gonna go ahead and put some more repositionable adhesive on this. In fact, I'm gonna go almost all the way down without too many gaps. And it would probably look cool if I did individual strips on each book, but I think for my own purposes and completing this layout without spending, you know, hours and hours on it, I'm just going to go ahead and put that across. All my pencils and pens are jumping out at me. Okay, so I'm just going to use my precision point scissors and trim that there. And I'm going to come up here, and we'll worry about individual books up here at the top. Okay, so we're going to go about 3/4 of an inch from the top of each of these books, and just go ahead and adhere a little bit of this strip. Okay, so just like that. I'm going to go right here. There and right there. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side when we get to the other side. So I'm just going to stick that little extra piece on the side. And now let's lay this out again and see just how much of this is going to be covered up. Like I have something underneath my finger now. All right. So we're going to put these here. These will go down here. Some maps. I actually could probably trim this photo down just a tiny bit so that I can make a little bit more room. So I'm going to do that just because we have found that we want just a tiny bit more room down here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and assemble these. We had talked about possibly doing mats, but honestly, I think I'm going to forego the mats. I think this is going to be good just the way it is. Alright, so there's that one. I'm not going to add the mats I thought I was going to, because I just don't feel like there would just be not enough room. So that's going to be our left hand side of the layout. And we'll jump back in here. Let's do these two, let's get these two peekaboo pockets situated before we jump over there and do other things. Okay, so I've got this piece of paper, and we've got these photos. So I think I was going to go ahead and put these two, and I was going to go ahead and cut this one so that it matched the size of this one, which means it needs to be 5 inches. So I'm just going to trim off that 1/4 inch on the side so that it matches. And this larger one is a 5 by 7. So I cut this piece, this other photograph, into a 4 by 5, and then that way we can put roughly 3/8 of an inch or so on the top, and I'm just kind of centering them on here. 3/8 of an inch or so on top, 3/8 of an inch or so on the bottom, and we can add some journaling or some lettering across this center part right here. Okay, then we're going to turn that over. I have this cute picture of my mom and my cousin. My cousin is super cute, and she is a year older than I am, and she was the first grandchild born on my mom's side of the family, and they lived at that point in time, she and her parents lived about 3 blocks away from us. So my mom became her second mom, and because we were over there, or they were over there a lot. And then when I was born, we were over there just all the time, it felt like. And so her mom was like my second mom, and my mom was like her second mom. And they had other good friends, don't get me wrong, but she's always just held a really special place in my mom's heart, which is a lovely thing. So Kelly came with us, which was fun. She is a good and avid traveler. She's been many places, so it was super fun to have her join us for this. So I just matted that really quick with a little bit of what was left of the matching paper for the collection that I'm using. And then I'm going to take this peekaboo pocket, and I'm going to put this on the flip side so that when we flip it over, we'll be able to see her, and I can do some journaling on that. This peekaboo pocket is going to go in the center of this layout, so it's going to be both sides will be very easily seen. Alright, so there is that. And then this one is another picture of kind of just all the shelves and the bus and the ceiling. And I actually have a daughter who went and took pictures of every single one of the busts in this library. So we have a picture of all of them, which is really cool. I don't know if I don't plan on including all of them in this album, but it is super cool that we have pictures of all of them. The busts were of renowned scholars and scientists and people with large amounts of knowledge from Irish culture. And some of them are women, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I believe I have another layout that we'll get into that next time. But for today, let's go ahead and get these put on. Oh, I almost forgot to put on the gold accent that goes across our books. So I apologize for that. let's get that taken care of so that I can get the rest of these photos put on these pages. I got excited and wanted to put all the pictures on and completely forgot to add this. So again, we're going about 3/4 of an inch or so from the top of the book. And I'm going to switch over to this other piece because that one was getting too narrow. I think my paper moved or something. All right. I am going to go ahead and add this one to here just so that that tiny bit of the top edge will show. It's like doing surgery at this point, right? All right. And then this photo will go right here. Now, our peekaboo pocket is going to sit right down on top of this photo right here. It's going to have to go through my page protector, however, so that won't get adhered until after the layout is completed and I have the page protector on there. One thing I was going to do though, if I had enough of this left, is just run a little bit of it across the bottom of this. So let me do that before I forget. It's of varying sizes, which is a little frustrating to me and makes me wonder. I'm just going to run this right across the seam that I had for my welding. I think it will just make a nice addition to the bottom of that peekaboo. Okay, and I'll journal on this also, since there really isn't any room to journal on the rest of it. All right, now this piece, this peekaboo pocket, we're going to take the cellophane off. You can't really see it, but there's a piece of cellophane that covers the adhesive on this. I'm going to fold this over so I can see where the edge is located, and then this is going to go right along the jeeping. The pictures and everything on this page. Okay, so just like that. So that way we can open that up. I'm not sure why that is looking a little puckery, but let's fix it before it's on there for longer and doesn't want to be fixed. Okay, there we go. All right, so we'll have this peekaboo in the middle and this one on the side. And then our left hand side of the page over here. All right, so just like that. And I don't really think I'm going to do any other embellishing on this page, except that I do have a tiny little shamrock here that I think I'm going to add in maybe right there. To balance the greens in the backpack and a little bit of green up there. But otherwise, I think I'm going to just let this page speak for itself and not worry about embellishing, unless I come across something really good, and then I might put it on this page here. But for now, this is how I'm going to leave it with you. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it's been entertaining and inspiring for you, and that it has given you some ideas to use in your own albums. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Have a great day now.